Welcome to my classroom. Continuing with the topic soil genesis and classification, today we will briefly discuss soil formation, what we call as pedogenesis. Pedo means soil, genesis means formation, so formation of soil. Now in pedogenesis, as I explained in my previous lecture, I should say, this pedogenesis or soil formation, it is affected by soil forming factors and soil forming properties. So soil forming factors and soil processes. Now today we will be confining to the soil forming factors. As I told you in my previous lecture that soil forming factors, in fact, they are the acting agents. They are the acting agents. They create a situation in which different processes of soil formation take place. So we will be learning these soil processes in our next topic, but today we will be studying about that what are those factors which create a situation for these processes to occur and how they play a role in the formation of soil. Now here again while discussing giving a concept of soil formation, as I told you, the father of soil science, Dr. Shave, in 1889, he gave a concept that soil, any type of soil unit, soil formation, it's a function of three things. One is climate. Climate determines what type of soil is formed. Climate determines what the soil forming processes should dominate. Then after climate, parent material P. So climate, parent material and organisms. He said that these are three important factors which play a role in the formation of the soil. Later on, Jenny in 1941, he said that two more important factors are important, and those factors are relief, or you can say topography, that how a soil is formed, that is also determined by the topography of that particular region where the soil formation is taking place. And also he said that time is as important as other factors, because as I said in my last lecture that this soil formation process is very slow, and you require thousands, maybe tens of thousands of years to form a 1 centimeter of soil, 1 inch of soil. But if you have to lose this soil, if you have to erode this soil, this 1 inch of the soil can be eroded in as a short period of time as say 2 to 3 years. So very slow process. So of course, yes, now after so many years, a particular type of soil, same soil undergoes changes over the time, and that's why time is an important factor. So here if we see that now you have 5 factors. Factors are 5. So one is your climate, second is, instead of now organisms, we will now call it as biosphere. Now biosphere means all type of organisms, or even better for understanding I can write over here organisms, both plants and animals, which constitute the biosphere. Then third is relief. or better you call it as topography. But there is some difference between relief and topography. We shall discuss it later. And then parent material. You know what is parent material. And lastly, the fifth factor is time. Now again, it was Dr. Joseph in 1946. He said that out of these five factors, the first three, that is climate, biosphere, and climate, biosphere, these two factors can be, we can call these as active factors. We shall just now discuss what are actually the active factors, and rest, these three are passive factors. Now what are the active factors? Active factors, these are called active because climate and biosphere, they provide energy for different processes to take place. Climate, when you talk of rainfall, it has certain energy. Then you talk of temperature, heat, it has certain energy. So that's why it's called active factor. And similarly, the biosphere, the organisms, they remain active, particularly the fauna. They burrow the soil, they mix the soil, so that's why it is active. And similarly, flora, they provide energy in the form of biomass, and that biomass is basically the food for microorganism. So you can say flora, in fact, is food for the fauna, and this is how both they provide energy. So the factors which provide energy, they are called active factors. And then relief, parent material, time, these are called passive factors because these provide the soil conditions. These provide the base for the formation of, for example, now parent material. Basically, this is the parent material which has to undergo changes and get converted into soil, get converted into different horizons of the soil. So this is that's why this is passive factor. Similarly, how the parent material it's spread over as say a landscape, whether it is flat, whether it is low lying, whether it is upslope. So these locations, they then determine the type of soil which is formed. And similarly, of course, time is a passive factor. Time determines that because many times when we will discuss the classification of the soils, so we will be using the word mature soils, younger soils. So it plays a great role. Time, of course, yeah. As we say that time is a great healer. So in this case also time is a great factor which determines time, type of soil over the period of time. So because it's not that the soil is formed and it will remain as such. No, it's still, whatever soils you look in the nature, they are still undergoing changes, and maybe you never know that after maybe 1,000 years or 10,000 years or 100,000 years, you may have different type of soil over here, or you may not have any soil over here. So that's why. So I hope that active and passive factors are clear. These provide energy. Passive factors, they act as a base. They act as, they create a sort of condition for the soil formation to take place. Now we will discuss these factors one by one. What is the role played by each factor, how they affect the formation of soils. So the first factor is climate. And as I said, in climate, the two things are very important. That is, instead of rain, I'll better call it as precipitation. Because precipitation, it will include your rainfall as well as snow, even ice, even dew. So whatever type of precipitation we have, precipitation and temperature. So these are two important factors related with climate. which affect the formation of soils. So if I say that this is the most influential factor in the formation of soils, and if I say that if these two things would not have been there, it would not have been possible for the soil to exist. I mean, not exist, I should say, soil to form from the rocks or parent material. And because why it is the most influential? So I will say these climate is most influential factor. Because it has a direct effect on soil formation. It has direct effect. How it has direct effect? Because it provides moisture, or better you call as water, and that water and heat, of course, moisture and heat. So because of the moisture and heat conditions, the minerals, they get decomposed. So this is how this results in decomposition of minerals. Of mineral matter. Not only mineral matter, but also organic matter. And as I said in my previous lecture, that organic matter decomposes, and of course, if you remember, I said that organic matter decomposition, it mainly takes by the aid or help of microorganisms. But again, for the microorganisms to act, you should have appropriate moisture content as well as the temperature conditions, because microorganisms, they thrive best between 10 degrees centigrade and 35 degrees centigrade, so appropriate temperature conditions. So the minerals are decomposed, number one. Number two, because the precipitation, it gives us water, and when water, it percolates down the parent material. So percolation of water into parent material, when water percolates, it takes along with it some nutrients, clay, and other things, and results in the formation of, transports, this percolation process transports nutrients, clay, organic matter, which ultimately leads to formation of horizons. Because if you remember in my previous lecture, I said that the horizons, some horizons are formed by elevation from E, that means loss of the things. Some horizons are characterized by the process of elevation from I, that is gain of the things. So this is over here. So that's why it has a direct effect, and indirectly it controls the flora and fauna. Because if there is not appropriate moisture content, water, or appropriate temperature conditions, you cannot expect the flora and fauna to exist. So indirectly it controls, better I should say, biosphere or flora and fauna. And we will again come to biosphere, that how it helps. And then rainfall is the most significant. Even out of these two, the rainfall is significant factor. Rainfall is most significant. For example, if you have arid type of climate, arid means when you have very scanty rain, you have dry conditions, then we expect saline soils to be there. So did you get my point? So extent of rainfall, it determines the type of soil. So in generally in arid regions we have saline soils, and in similarly cold and humid conditions, we have yes, podzol soils. I will not discuss over here what is podzol. When we will discuss classification of soil, then we will learn what is the podzol. And similarly, when you have warm and humid conditions, so these result in formation of laterite and lateritic soils. These are two different types of soil. Again, we will learn it, lateritic soils. In soil taxonomy, we will go into detail of this. I'll not touch over here because then we will be wandering from we will be deflected from our main topic. So rainfall, as I said, most important, and second important is your temperature. So temperature is the second most important factor under climatic conditions. So how the temperature affects, it influences temperature influences the chemical reactions. You know, every chemical reaction, whether it is carried out by chemicals or microorganisms, so they require a certain type of temperature conditions for the reaction to take place. So chemical reactions which are involved in soil formation, So that means if there is not appropriate temperature condition, soil formation could be affected. And as you know that with every increase in 10 degree centigrade, every increase in temperature by 10 degrees centigrade, it results in twice or 3 times faster rate of chemical reaction. So you can imagine that how the chemical reaction, it fastens by the increase in temperature. And similarly, if you have warm and humid conditions, that means temperatures are high, then we expect the weathering of rocks will be, the extent of rock weathering will be high. So rock weathering, because rocks will be then broken down into the parent material and ultimately. So basically, as we discussed in our previous lecture also, weathering of the rocks is the first step for resulting in the formation of parent material, and then second step is parent material gets converted into soil. So this rock weathering, it can go up to say from 1 meter to 30 meters, up to 30 meters depth the rock could be weathered. This is how the temperature affects. And if your conditions are cold and humid, then rate of organic matter decomposition will be slow. Rate of organic matter decomposition decreases. And if the conditions are hot and dry, then organic matter decomposition will be high. Even in warm and humid, the organic matter decomposition will be fast. So rock weathering will be there, and in the formation of soil, under warm and humid, that means high temperature conditions, the rate of decomposition of organic matter will be fast, and you will have very low amounts of organic carbon in the soil. But if you have cold conditions, cold desert, you can expect the organic carbon to be very high in these regions. And if it is cold temperate, so cold and temperate, basically it is one and same thing. when we say temperate, and that means the rainfall also decreases and maybe snowfall could be there. So of course organic matter decomposition slows down, soil organic carbon content will be higher, but at the same time this rock weathering, which under warm and humid conditions was from a few meters up to 30 meters, now it could be from a few centimeter, I should better say this rock weathering, few centimeter to just 1 meter. See the difference because of the temperature. Under warm conditions, rock weathering can go as deep as up to 30 meters. Under cold conditions, it can be confined up to 1 meter only. So this is the effect of climate, that is both rainfall and temperature. After climate, then the second factor is biosphere. Again, this is an active factor. Biosphere, better call it as flora and fauna. So as I said, food for microorganisms, not only micro, I should say better organisms. Even if you have higher animals also, even I should say the bigger animals, they also depend on the vegetation. So here the vegetation, in fact, better we call it as vegetation. So it is food for the organisms, particularly the microorganisms, and it provides organic materials also. Secondly, food for microorganisms, particularly our concern is here because microorganisms, they play a big role in the formation of soils, in carrying out various nutrient transformations. So food for microorganisms. So these microorganisms, they break down the decomposition, they result in decomposition of organic material which is being added into the soil, that gets decomposed. And when organic matter gets decomposed, there is production of weak acids. So this results in weak acids. Those weak acids then break down, they release the essential plant nutrients, release essential plant nutrients. And that's why under natural conditions, we need not to add fertilizers because there is a carbon cycle is there, organic matter is continuously added into the soil, microorganisms are decomposing those that organic matter, and during decomposition process weak acids are formed which ultimately release essential nutrients. Not only that, if a soil is with higher organic matter, soil organic matter, its water holding capacity will be high. Water holding capacity increases, and similarly, because of higher organic matter, the nutrient retention in the soil also increases. Nutrient retention increases because these are basically the organic carbon particles or charged particles. They bind the nutrients, they hold the water, they hold the nutrients in the soil. They decrease leaching. In other words, I should say decreased leaching. And you know what is the leaching? Leaching is loss of the nutrients along with the percolating water. So nutrients, they get dissolved in water and they move out of the layer, and your soil or that particular layer, it loses the nutrients. So and of course if you have good amount of organic carbon in the soil, then it reduces the extent of soil crusting, because your aggregates, I have discussed this in one of my soil physics lectures, that with increase in organic matter, uh, you know, the aggregates become stronger, and it's very difficult for the rainfall or the running water to break down those aggregates, because it is due to breakdown of aggregates there is formation of crust, smaller particles, they choke the surface of the soil, and with the kinetic energy of the falling raindrops, this upper layer, it gets compacted and results in a formation of crust, which prevents germination of seed and all that. Then there are some macroorganisms, and what are those macroorganisms generally present in the soil, starting from earthworms, rodents, moles, termites, millipedes, centipedes. All these macroorganisms, they mix the soil. How they? Because all these organisms, they burrow into the soil. While burrowing, they mix the soil, and earthworms particularly, they enrich the soil, because they eat the earth and then release in the same through their feces, and which is rich in organic matter and nutrients and all that. So by mixing the soil, they mix the soil, they mix different layers. So there is retardation of soil horizons, the horizonization process. So this gets retarded. So on one hand, these microorganisms are good. If your soil is compact, they burrow it, they make it porous, so water percolates. But on the other hand, because they mix the soil, they mix different layers, so somehow they retard the what you call the process of horizon differentiation or horizon formation. And then microorganisms. So just now I said microorganisms, like you have bacteria, fungi, actinomycetes, and some more, maybe protozoa, nematodes, nematodes. So all these microorganisms, particularly the bacteria, they help in decomposition of organic matter, and once organic matter decomposition takes place, again weak acids then decompose the mineral matter, release of nutrients, and then the story goes on. Then the third factor is relief or topography. Basically, relief, I should say topography. I said that I'll tell you the difference. Relief is just on a local scale, that if you have a small chunk of land, and what is the slope of that particular land. Topography, it's on a wider scale. If you have a big chunk of land, a complete landscape, so you have some lowland areas, highland areas, intermediate areas. So this is, otherwise the meaning conveyed is similar in both the cases. It's on a local small scale, it's on a wider scale. Soil organic matter, then if it's something like this. So whenever there is rain, so some portion of this rain, it runs over the surface of water, some goes into the soil as percolation, infiltration, then percolation and all that. So when this water runs over the surface of the soil, it carries along with it the clay particles, organic matter. So it carries clay, organic matter, nutrients towards the downstream side. So that means the highlands and the intermediate lands, they will be less fertile, they will be more sandy nature, they will have lesser nutrients compared to the lowland soils. The best example is you take the Himalayas. The soils of Himalayas may not be so rich in nutrients, but the Indo-Gangetic plains, particularly like in Punjab and Haryana and UP, Uttar Pradesh, so the soils are rich in yes, organic carbon. It depends upon place to place, but of course nutrients, clay content, finer in texture. So then again it depends. So generally lowland soils. So if I say these are lowland soils, these will be darker in color because of higher organic carbon content. These will be darker in color, high pH, dark color, darker I should say. pH is higher, not high, I should say higher pH as compared to intermediate and the surface. EC could also be high because salts also they get deposited over here. And clay content and organic matter, yes of course, clay and organic matter, finer particles which are brought by the running water. And soil formation on the steep slopes is very poor. If I say these are steep slopes, here the soil formation will be poor. And of course this will be having lesser clay. So lesser clay means more sandy, lesser organic carbon, lower pH, lower EC, lighter in color, and gently sloping flatland is ideal. Gently sloping. Now if this is your gently sloping flatlands, these give birth to the ideal soil. That means soil good from plant production point of view. So apart from this, the flatlands, yes, if you have now the flatlands, so as I said, darker color, higher pH, so here we will have rapid horizon differentiation. Because of the leaching and percolation of the nutrients, and soil depth is also higher. Soils are deeper. Whereas lowlands, this is for the flatlands, and lowlands where water stagnates, a sort of depression in lowlands. So there is water stagnation, yeah, and water is available. Percolation is very poor. Water available, poor percolation. Why poor percolation? Because the surface has been sealed. Soil surface has been sealed because of clay and organic matter particles. So this will then result in poor soil development. So that's why we say that the gently sloping flatlands are ideal soils. There will not be any water stagnation, so it would be good. So based on this, we have a term Catena. Catena term was coined just on the basis of the impact of topography. Now under you have a particular landscape, okay, and whole of the landscape has evolved from the similar parent material, similar climatic conditions, similar time but still the soil characteristics are different in different parts of landscape because of the relief or topography. So that type of landscape is known as catena. Got my point? Or should I? You can download it and again listen to what I said. So here I may tell you that we have a very important journal which is named as Catena also. So Catena is not only the name of a journal, but it also signifies some meaning. It defines a particular landscape. So after leaf, the next factor is parent material. Yeah, again an important factor, because this is the parent material which is going to provide you a base for the formation of soil. If parent material would not have been there, the soil would not have been there. So the fourth is parent material. So as we discussed yesterday, it is loose, unconsolidated material. When I say loose, okay, better I should call loose or unconsolidated rock material. That is called as parent material. So initial stage of soil formation. Initial stage of soil formation at the time of at what time? At the time of zero soil formation. So that means when there is no soil formation, we call it as parent material simply. So this is how we define it. So parent material, then again you can classify parent material on the basis of the process or the transportation process, how it has been deposited or created or something. For example, if it is transported by water, we call it as alluvium. And generally the soils which develop from alluvium, they are called alluvial soils, generally considered to be very fertile soils. And if the parent material is the deposition in a lake, and then the lake dries out, and this parent material is then called like a stream. If the parent material is from the oceans, we call it as marine. Very simple. If the parent material is from wind, we call it as aeolian. A-E-O-L-I-N-E, aeolian. And if the parent material is from, with the help of gravity, you have landscape, the whole mass coming down, deposited at the foot slope of the mountain or hill, that type is called colluvium. So, which is brought by the influence of gravity. And similarly, if it is through glacial or ice, we call it as moraine. So this is how on the basis of the agent of deposition we define the parent material, and of course it has a passive role. It does nothing but acts as a gentleman sitting and all the factors acting on it. So different parent material, similar soils, effective factors are shown. Then parent material determine soil properties. Yeah, they affect the soil properties like texture. This is the basic property of the soil which is derived from the parent material. Structure, of course, structure, water holding, but I say that they have more influence of the organic matter and of course clay content. Yeah, because texture means proportion of sand, silt and clay. So if clay content is higher, then water holding capacity will be higher. If clay content is less, water holding capacity will be less. Similarly, aggregation or soil structure. So that also depends, because texture or aggregation or water holding capacity depends on two things. One is your organic matter, second is your clay content. So, and of course clay content. And the last factor is time. So time as such, yes, it has a great role to play. It's a natural process. Soil formation is natural process, takes thousands of years for the formation of soil, and we call this as the time taken from parent material to soil, mature soil. Mature soil, we call this time as pedogenic time. Pedogenic means time taken for the soil to form. So that's all. Mature soil, when I say mature soil, that means it should have at least A, B and C horizons. Only then it will be a mature soil. So that's all from my side. I hope the things are clear. Thank you very much.